Beth looks across the street, looking both ways. She was nervous. One of her best friends was killed by getting hit by a car. They had honked as they were going away over the speed limit. Her friend, just like Beth, was deaf. Her friend was rushing to get somewhere and then it happened. Ever since then, Beth has been more nervous. She always was trying to be careful. She wanted to cross the road, but just couldn't. Nobody else was walking across the street, so she just stood there, hoping that she could find the courage to walk across. She was starving and had to go across the street to get some food. At that time it was no problem. There was a group of people who also was trying to get across the restaurant, but unlike Beth, they didn't call in. They sat down intending to stay for a little while. No longer waiting to wait, Beth takes a deep breath and goes to take a step into the street, and then she chickened out. She rubs her temple with her fingers, irritated at herself. She looks around and sees nobody with an intent to go across. But then she noticed the law from Mr.Santorini would help her across. She felt so angry about her irrational fear, but it was her fear. She walks into law firm and she looks at the lady at the front desk who had looked up and was moving her lips. Beth noticed that the lady looked exhausted as her dyed black hair stalked up a little in odd places. Beth was trying to do everything she could find a way out. Beth's eyes flickered to the nameplate on the desk and saw that the lady was married. And then again, Beth was helpless. Beth tries to read her lips as well as she could but gave up quickly. Beth walks up to the desk and types on phone quickly. Is Santorini here? She holds the phone out for the secretary who didn't seem to mind reading it. She didn't look surprised or angry. She accepted it already, understanding that Beth was deaf. The lady shakes her head and the Beth just about had the panic attack she's been pushing down for the past 20 minutes. All of a sudden, the lady turns away from her, but Beth could see her lips moving. The August appears from the hall, still putting on his long black coat. Beth felt even more smaller now that the August was in the room. He intimidated her with his height. August smiles and waves at her. Mr. Santorini is going to be mad at you, the lady says to August, which only made him roll his eyes. Beth kept feeling worse and worse about being deaf and not being able to hear the lady who seems to be the nice to be willing to help Beth. August's eyes dropped down to the bag that Beth was holding, signaling that she already had food. Why are you here? He signs to her quickly. She shifts on her feet, obviously uncomfortable. Beth frowns and starts to admit why she was there. I needed someone to walk me across the street. I thought Mr. Santorini could help me. August's eyes frowned and then his eyes softened. Obviously, she was ashamed about it. Bye, Lena. See you tomorrow, August says and then holds the door open for the Beth. Beth lets her head hang low and walks out of the building. Let me go grab my food and I'll walk you across the street. I was going to come over and read anyways, he tells Beth. Beth relaxes a little more, obviously revived. She waits patiently for him to grab his food. Then they walk across the street and into the bookshop. There are indicators for when you can walk, August sign. Beth shifts in her chair and frowns. I know, I just don't trust them. I wouldn't be able to hear if a car was coming in too fast and couldn't stop for me. My friend died that way because she couldn't hear a car. Beth signs slowly and sadly. August frowns. He could tell that she was scared, but she had the right to be. She lost a friend and she was blaming her inability to hear instead of that driver. August pulls a book out and slides it over to the bed. It's a good one, he says. She smiles and nods her head, reading the title. August frowns. She already had read it. The two eat and carefully sign each other. Things trying to get to know each other. August was currently trying to tell her story and struggling to remember. The correct sign. Beth giggles and August couldn't help but smile. He found it hard to control himself when he heard a lovely sound like that. It was beautiful and soft. Beth's hair was pulled back. Again, a few strands had leaked out of her hairband. She was wearing some jeans, a simple t-shirt, and a pair of old Converse that obviously showed their age. She helps him remember, sign and corrects him on his grammar. It only made him realize how much he missed his family, especially his siblings. He had saw his brother this morning only to be told that his brother just got engaged. August tells Beth about his brother's engagement and she smiles widely. You don't look excited, she signs. I don't know, it was that serious. It makes me feel bad. I'm terrible with keeping contact, he signs, admitting his fault. I'm sure your brother isn't mad about that, she signs back. The bell rings to the store and the August looks to the door to see Mr. Santorini walking in with determination in his feet. Every step, his eyes met with August and there was anger present. You were at work today, even though you weren't supposed to be, Mr. Santorini says. August frowns. I had to finish something from the past case, August admits. Mr. Santorini immediately comes down and by calming his aura, he says hello to the Beth who had shrunk in her seat, cluelessly to why the old man looked so angered. August quickly explains and watched as her face lit up and she smiled. Both of their hearts knew something that two didn't. They liked each other. August was away. Well, actually, he was at his parents enjoying some family time. He was going to be there for a few days, and his family was grateful, very, very grateful. They all caught up, and then his mom signed something that August hadn't gave much thought to. Any girls in your life? She asks. August signs and freezes right before she started asking more, and the August again freeze before he started to shake his head. His mom couldn't help but enjoy the hesitations. There is a girl I like. He starts off slowly, thinking about a certain redhead who was at home reading the sick about it. The 6 words he had signed set his family off with a fire of questions coming from everyone. August tells them to calm down and then talks about Beth. The story ended with, I don't think she likes me back. August heard his mom snort and watches as she rolls her eyes. His dad only laughed. His brother and now fiance only had smirks on their faces, and the twins were giggling. You were hard not to be like, raise signs to her brother. He couldn't help but smile at her. He was going to go that long without seeing his family again. August wraps his arm around his little sister's shoulders and kisses her cheek, making her scream and sign an over-dramatic "Ew." He laughs and watches, very amused. Over 100 miles away was Beth, was reading a book that she has read too many times. The current copy she had in her hand was falling apart. There were pages falling out, and some were so torn that it was just splitting apart. Her hair was annoying, and she was at a boring part of the book. She then decided she was going to take the tiring job of straightening her hair. A few hours later, she was done and her arms hurt. The next day, Beth had to look nice today. Today was opening the coffee shop in her bookstore. She had on a nice pink dress and a black cardigan. She was strolling around in some black flats instead of her usual Converse or black boots. She was nervous. Mr. Santorini was supposed to be here by now, and he wasn't. He was supposed to come translate a little. He didn't know about everything of sign language, but the little that he knew helped a lot, and he was pretty good at finger spelling. She started to pace and then saw the guy from the newspaper come in. One of her workers looked over at her, and Beth couldn't help but frantically shake her head. Beth then rushes to one of the corners of the store, too nervous about what's going on. Where was he? She feels a tap on her shoulder and she is relieved. Mr. Santorini, she smiles and hugs him. Sorry, I was yelling at August for being in the office. Mr. Santorini quickly sighed. She nods her head and then leads him over to where she needed to be. There was a small group of people Most wear staffs, a few friends, and Mr. Santorini. Mr. Santorini walks over to the newspaper reporter and talks to him. The guy nods in understanding him. It made Beth feel a little uncomfortable. Her being deaf made her feel uncomfortable. Mr. Santorini signs a few things to her, stand in front of the coffee shop and smile. She does what she's told, and then she looks over just in time to see August join the crowd. She smiles and he smiles at her, making both of their hearts beat a lot faster than they were. The flash goes off and she walks over to the reporter. How long have you had the coffee shop? The reporter asks. Mr. Santorini was trying to translate as best as he could, but he was struggling. August saw that he was having a tough time and then he walked over it. Here, let me, August says. August quickly helps Mr. Santorini sign the questions. Beth only felt relieved. The reporter finishes and leaves the shop. August turns to the Beth and realizes that her hair was straight. Your hair, August sighed surprised. Beth couldn't help but blush. She hated when people pointed it out. Not so crazy girl today, she replies. He nods his head. I prefer the crazy girls, he admits. Beth blushes again and the August was loving it. Mr. Santorini, who was watching from afar, was enjoying the show as well. August loved her dress. He couldn't help but really like Beth. He barely knew her, but he liked her. Spur of the moment, August asks her out for the lunch. Beth probably too eagerly say yes. Mr. Santorini laughs at too awkwardness. Beth kept blushing like a tomato. Beth pulls on another coat and follows August out of the bookstore. Everyone in the bookstore was fussing on how cute they were after they left. Mr. Santorini saw how they already started to balance each other out. August, who was too tall for his own good, standing at 6'7", stood as a giant compared to the Beth, who was 5'5", which was considered an average height for the woman. Everyone went to the window and saw the couple cross the street, squealing what they had saw. Mr. Santorini chuckles to himself. He better start losing weight to fit back into his tux. They go to cross the street and the Beth, who was terrified, grabs August's hand. She didn't really notice that she had. She was just too scared. August, however, did notice and was buzzing. He couldn't help but smile. He had a pretty girl holding his hand. They got into the restaurant and August asks if he needs to help her order. She shakes her head and laughs. No, a lot of waiter staff here is learning sign language. Their boss is making them that way more deaf or hard of hearing people come. I personally think it's brilliant. It will make a pretty big impact, she says. She asks questions about his family, knowing that he went and visited them yesterday. He goes on and on about how excited his family is about the wedding and how his sister kept making fun of him. What's about your family? He asks. Beth tenses up and shakes her head. They avoid me, Beth simply says. not really explaining anything. What? August signs, feeling confused. They believe in perfect human body or things, and ironically is they are both hearing. Beth start explaining. I wasn't born deaf. Both of my eardrums burst when I was 15. They burst because of a police siren because my parents were protesting at a hospital. August heard songs at how hearing was something that was ripped away from her. It broke his heart to hear that. They left me right there in front of the hospital. I was there lying on the ground with the bleeding ears. That was 10 years ago. She signs, not really sad. She wasn't sad. Was she supposed to be sad? Would her life had been this good if she wasn't detached? She never really thought about it before. Well, that what happened after that? August asked, slowly confused, scared that she would get mad or just run off. One of the cops picked me up and took me into the hospital. Then after that, him and his wife came to see me. They took me in and raised me as their foster parents. They couldn't make it here today because my foster dad is retiring. They are setting up a party for him, she says, talking lovely about her parents. She loved them so much. She couldn't wait for the party tonight to give her foster dad his present that she got him. She got him a few books. One was a comical How to Be a Police Officer for Dummies. Other were What to Do During Retirement, and another filled with the cool things to try during free time. The main gift was she was really excited to give him, and the main gift she was really excited for him to get was 2 plane tickets. She and her 2 older foster siblings had got her parents a 2 week vacation in Finland. Her foster dad always had wanted to go there. He just wanted to know why it was in the top of the chart for schooling and other things. She had talked to her mom about it, and her mom loved the idea. The bookshop's surprisingly success let Beth start secretly put money into her parents' retirement fund. Her mom wasn't ready to retire yet. She loved her job teaching too much. Neither of them knew about why their retirement funds money and why there are the sudden was $10 put in at the end of every week for 12 months, and why it has been happening like that for 2 years now. Beth loves her parents because they gave her a life again. They showed her what truly love was when she had totally wrong perception about it.